So, to start things off in Sonic Origins, here we go, on to the very first Sonic game, the one that started it all as well. So here we are in Sonic the Hedgehog once again, except now it's in widescreen, first of all. In addition to that though, we also did somehow got the drop dash. Okay, sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because obviously, ever since in Sonic Mania, they firstly introduced the forms of the drop dash, so now they implemented that particular move for not only for Sonic the Hedgehog 1, but eventually Sonic CD, and Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and of course Sonic 3 and Knuckles that was originally going to be planned for it back in the day, but of course it was being completely scrapped back in the day. So yeah, this is the forms of Sonic Origins. As I said before, it's a compilation game that has been filled to the brim with not only Sonic the Hedgehog 1, but also, as I said, Sonic the Hedgehog CD, and also Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which, again, it's been a very long time since we finally managed able to got a re-release of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles ever since in Sega Mega Drive Ultimate Collection for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Because let me tell you though, it's been 13 years or so since during that particular compilation exists. I think it's mainly because of the licensing issues with all the Michael Jacksons involved, but either way though, for the soundtrack anyway, so everything else will be pretty much expected these days. So as you can tell right there, since if you probably noticed about this footage of Sonic the Hedgehog 1, that's from the actual silky smooth frame rate and stuff like that, well apparently, between both Sonic the Hedgehog 1, as well as Sonic CD, as well as the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, that those three games are usually based off from the likes of the IRS remastered version made by Christian Whitehead, which, you know what it's like about the fact that you do have widescreen support with 3 games in one, and basically we do have ourselves the spin dash as well for Sonic the Hedgehog 1's case, so that way you can now able to actually utilize the spin dash. Although, technically speaking though, when it comes to the drop dash move, that basically though is about the fact that there's also another version of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 on the Nintendo Switch version most likely, thanks to the forms of the Sega Ages lineup, but the forms of how the fact that it does manage to able to include the drop dash ability as well. So yeah, you probably get the idea of how that's going to be represented with. And also, as you can tell, that we no longer have lives, which means it's been replaced by coins. Specifically, what these coins managed able to be used for, if you're probably wondering, well, I'll explain more details about that once we're able to continue proceeding through Sonic Origins, because, well, just like in the forms of how it does it in Super Mario 3D All-Stars, that these will be the 100% completion with not only Sonic the Hedgehog 1 from collecting every single Chaos Emeralds throughout the game, and same applies to the Time Stones, collecting all the Time Stones in Sonic CD, and hopefully we're able to get ourselves the good future of most of those zones in that game, and same applies to collecting all of the Chaos Emeralds in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and of course getting all of the Chaos Emeralds in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and in addition to those, all of the Super Emeralds will be obtained during the forms of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So yeah, that'll be our ultimate goal for this point. Although I'm sure enough though, that originally we did done Sonic the Hedgehog 1, like, let's just say a few times in the past, but ultimately speaking though, that the old versions of those Let's Plays, the only exception being is the 2017 rendition of that particular Let's Play. If you guys want to check it out, then you can. That basically though, is about the fact that, well, we did essentially manage to play it on the forms of the Sega Mega Drive Ultimate Collection version most likely, because, well, you know what I mean, bump up the quality and stuff like that, if you probably couldn't tell already, so obviously in Sonic the Hedgehog 1, that obviously you go for the exactly the same zones as the forms of how it does in the original version of the game, except that basically though is about the fact that everything else is a lot more smoother. In addition to that though, you can now finally utilize the spin dash, or the drop dash if you will. So generally speaking though, that the actual emphasis on the forms of, since I'm going to be selecting story mode, as you probably already know, during the forms of today anyway. Speaking of today though, is about the fact that, well, today's date of course is the 11th of February today, in this case in 2023 today, although I meant to say it's 11th of February today, because I don't know about you, because for some reason I'm just having a bit of a throat issues at the moment, but don't worry, I'm fine as it is. So, either way, let's just go ahead and make our way to the very end of this level, and basically every once in a while, in every single... Oh, wait a second, I can't usually just deal the amount of hits to Dr. Eggman from the start, because I have to wait until the animation starts. Okay, that's a little bit different. Because again, this is obviously based off from the 2013 re-release on the iOS back in the day, made by Christian Whitehead, which I was originally trying to able to tackle for that version back in the day. But of course, back in the day, whenever I first experienced the Christian Whitehead version of Sonic the Hedgehog 1 on the iOS version, there was no way I can able to actually capture the footage on my phone until the very recently, for the forms of, I would classify for saying since 2017 or something, that allows me to able to actually record capture footage for the actual smartphones, including iPads as well. So yeah, it's a pretty cool welcoming addition, I might add. So anyways, now let's move on to Marble Zone, in this case somewhat of a slow zone, clearly because of the forms of a lot of elevation platforms you have to navigate through. So either way though, that might be saying something. So now, of course, if you couldn't tell already, since during the forms of the actual introducing portion of this Let's Play, they do realize about the fact that I've somehow managed to already got 100 of those coins, which meaning about the fact that you obviously obtain those if you managed able to obtain the digital deluxe edition of the entire Sonic Origins game. Now, despite the fact that most people seem to able to think that much like the forms of how it does it on Super Mario 3D All-Stars, they do have a massive criticism with this compilation, being about the fact that it plays pretty much exactly like the forms of how it does it on the iOS remasters back in the day. But this time around though, it's now being released on multi-platforms, which meaning that, you know, on PlayStation 4, including PlayStation 5, and especially noticeable with Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and even PC Steam, and of course the Nintendo Switch as well. And there's also worth noting for is about the fact that the entire compilation of Sonic Origins came out during exactly the same day, as in the 31st birthday for Sonic the Hedgehog, at least for I've noticing that already. And most people also complain about the forms of some DLC content was in this game when it first launched, because all it gets is basically you will get yourselves the mirror mode already unlocked from the start, rather than just trying to able to get a special condition for able to unlocking it. And in addition to that though, there's also the forms of the actual island tour views that you can able to see all these Sonic characters on screen, depending on what islands you're able to take a view on. In addition to that though, there is also the forms of the extra missions DLC as well, which I'm sure we'll show those off by that time whenever we continue proceeding for this game. And drat. Oh, there's something different. Basically, these coins can be acted out as a continue system for special stages department, because, potentially speaking, if you somehow messed up on the special stage, like I just did right there, basically you only have to use one special coin in order able to actually keep on try again. But if you select no, then you obviously get kicked out of the special stage and you have to try a different stage with it. So that's actually a pretty welcoming addition if you're having a hard time with certain difficult special stages in the game. Well, at least it wasn't until whenever we get to Sonic the Hedgehog 2 selections of special stages, but I will say that the frame rate right there is actually very, a massive improvement over the likes of how it does in the originals in my opinion, because relatively speaking, it's actually pretty easy to control this time around, especially that relatively speaking though, speaking of coins though, rather than getting continues, if you manage to play this on story mode, instead, you get yourselves 3 spare coins, which, relatively speaking, if for those of you want to know what this mode is actually based off from, is actually by the forms of the Anniversary mode, which, basically not to be confused as the forms of that atrocious Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis for the Game Boy Advance, like basically all it has is just a spin dash in that game. And in addition to that though, it's just... well, it's basically the same thing as the original mode. So, speaking of the original mode, the classic mode does make an appearance in Sonic Origins. Like, basically though, it does not feature the forms of a full widescreen support. In addition to that though, you get extra lives and continues as well. So, yeah, if you're familiar with that kind of stuff though, more power to you. Especially noticeable about the fact that we've already technically done Sonic the Hedgehog 1, as well as Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic the Hedgehog CD, and especially noticeable with Sonic 3 and Knuckles back in during the forms in 2017, due to the forms of the celebration of the release of Sonic Mania back in 2017, which, as a result though, it's been like, you know, 6 years ago since we actually did those games potentially. Well, mind you about the fact that we most likely did both Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Sega Mega Drive Ultimate Collection. Although, originally though, again, I was expecting to be able to play the mobile version on those two games. But of course, I remember that horror stories when I do manage to get myself iPhone 5, where basically though is about the fact that I realized that my battery life is a load of crap. Like, it just drains very easily, like something faulty battery. So as a result of that kind of stuff though, that it might be a bit too late from now on during the forms of this year in 2023. So yeah, everything else will be pretty much accounted for. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to able to experience this game on day one, because that wasn't until because we somehow realized that back in last year that we've actually experienced Cyprus as our holiday vacation back in last year, and we had a really great time. Especially noticeable that as far as what I will classify for saying that Maxi has already mentioned about this during the course of the Super Mario 3D All-Stars Let's Play. That's basically though, it's nice to able to go back to Cyprus again after the events of 2012, despite how 2012 is all over the place. But either way though, that's just me. So, either way though, that might be some consumption, especially noticeable after looking back on certain stuff as far as that's been concerned with, but hey, at least it's something. And as you can tell, we've almost done with the forms of the special stages, by the way, because we literally got 3 Chaos Emeralds and we need 3 more to go, so I suppose, potentially speaking, we can probably be able to get the rest of the Chaos Emeralds in this particular first part of the forms of the Sonic the Hedgehog game itself. So yeah, it seems all pretty quick, all things considered, unlike the forms of how it does it back in 2017. That's because we still managed able to record footage from the likes of in 20 minutes or something. That's basically though, we somehow divide into 3 separate parts within 2 acts each. So not exactly sure how long this will probably take though, like I said before, because, well, aside from the fact that you can able to play those 4 games again, but this time around though on modern hardware, which also means about the fact that it's kind of unfortunate that certain games have been delisted on not only for the Xbox 360, but also the PlayStation 3 as well, which you probably know what I'm trying to say about this, is that Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and Sonic 3, and Sonic & Knuckles, and Sonic CD have all delisted on the likes of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox Live Arcade versions. It's a bit of a shame though, because relatively speaking though, I do remember back in the day that when I first tried out the 2011 remastered version of Sonic CD, I was incredibly hyped about it, despite it's been better late than never, I suppose, when it comes to experiencing that particular remaster on the PlayStation 3. So either way though, it's a bit of a shame that we can no longer experience those versions back in the day, because it's now being taken over thanks to the forms of Sonic Origins, which I'm totally fine with, but it's just about the fact that it does have some very weird design choices there around here. But either way though, I'll get to more details about that until whenever we get to the next game in the lineup, which appears to be, apparently it's supposed to be Sonic CD, apparently, because due to the forms of those Pacific Islands alone, that's basically though, it just goes likely in the, I won't say the chronological order, because relatively speaking, well, again, I'll mention more details about that until whenever we get to the second game in story mode. So, relatively speaking though, I think to me the story mode is actually pretty cool to go through, because potentially speaking, you don't need to able to actually just to like, well, if you manage to able to select those individual games separately, basically it just takes you to the title screen, and basically though, you have a choice between I would say 3 playable characters potentially, which there are Sonic, obviously, Tails, and Knuckles. However though, potentially speaking in story mode, I think you only mainly play as Sonic the whole way through, ranging from, you know what I mean, with Sonic 1, Sonic CD, Sonic 2, and finally Sonic 3 and Knuckles, whilst you can't actually play as Tails or Knuckles in story mode, which I guess that makes it pretty obvious choice as far as I'm aware, but either way though, potentially speaking, you can still able to play as not only Tails, but also Knuckles in, well, for Tails wise, Tails only becomes playable in all 4 games, except for Knuckles, because Knuckles only becomes playable in 3 games, which are Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but not Sonic CD, because I honestly have no idea why. They, oh, this is a bit different, because they now able to give me a bit of a casual safety, platform, just to ensure I don't get myself burned by the lava. Okay, that's actually pretty interesting. So here we go, face off against with Dr. Eggman, or Dr. Robotnik again. So just to ensure, just hop onto the next platform if he starts to able to, send out the fireball at us, and that's all you have to do. Man, I just really love the spin dash in this version, especially because that way it makes the game a lot more enjoyable this time around though, potentially speaking. Well, don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed the original version, don't get me wrong, but it's just about the fact that it might be pretty hard to get back into these days. Especially, I played this game several times on the forms of the iOS version on my phone, so that way I can able to play the game on the go, and generally speaking though, I can just simply enjoy myself with not only fiddle around with the stage selection screen, but also with the forms of a debug mode as well. Speaking of the debug mode though, I'm pretty sure it'll still exist in the forms of Sonic Origins anyway, so relatively speaking though, apparently some people also complain about, oh I love this trick, whoa, wow. Look at all that. I actually skipped the entire elevation sequence. That's super top notch. So either way though, I don't need to necessarily worry about the forms of, well, despite I just get hit by the forms of that random armadillo robot. But either way though, that's alright for me. So yeah, most people also complain about the forms of Sonic Origins though, is about the fact that with the price tag, like, my god, it's actually super duper pricey whenever you do manage to purchase the game, not only for its standalone version on the digital only version, and there's also short things worth noting for, there's no physical release of this entire compilation, which just kinda sucks honestly, because potentially speaking though, that I've almost running out of memory from not only for my PlayStation 4, but also with, well, I still got plenty of memory left for my Xbox One S luckily, but in terms of both PS4 and my Nintendo Switch, I'm almost running low for the actual gigabyte storage, until specifically with some more games coming out for it, that I'm sure that Max, you were able to mention more about it until when he, you know, goes back to Donkey Kong 64. Alright, Special Stage 5, here we go. And also, short things worth noting for, it's now possible we can able to actually access to the 7th special stage, which, the reason why I say that, because, well, again, I'll mention more about it whenever we get to the extra stuff of this game, after we finish up with not only story mode, but also with the forms of the mission mode as well. So, relatively speaking though, that's all I can really ask for, I suppose. So, in fact, kind of thinking about it though, that, well, there's not much else to add around here, so in fact, it's been a very long time since we actually had Sonic CD on a Sonic compilation game since Sonic Gems Collection from the likes of the PlayStation 2 as well as the Nintendo GameCube, because relatively speaking, in that particular compilation was actually based off of the PC version of the game. You know what I mean, with the actual graphical alterations. In addition to that though, with the actual loading times exist. So, because it was on a disc anyway, so anyway, so we've only got one more Chaos Emerald left, and potentially we'll get ourselves the best ending of the game. So, or generally speaking, the good ending anyway. So, Anyways, let's go and do Act 2 in Spring Yard Zone. God, I really love Spring Yard Zone. It's so fun to able to go back into, especially noticeable now we've actually got advanced movesets. So, potentially speaking though, I can simply just manage to able to enjoy myself with it once again. So, and short things worth noting for, that as I said this before, I'm playing the Switch version of Sonic Origins, because not only that, well, as I said before, that I've managed to able to play this particular compilation, the game itself, Sonic Origins, for quite some time on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and potentially speaking though, it is super duper easy to able to get every single achievement / trophies on Sonic Origins. So, whilst on the Switch version doesn't have any of those kind of stuff unfortunately, but on the upside is though, is about the fact that I can simply play Sonic 1 on the go, Sonic 2 on the go, and especially noticeable with Sonic CD on the go for the first time around. So, yeah, pretty cool. Especially noticeable, unlike any forms of how it does it on Sonic Classic Collection, that basically though you're able to actually access to 6 games as opposed to 7. So, you know what I mean, because of the forms of the add-ons for the Sonic & Knuckles cartridge, so... But either way, that's saying something, so... And short things worth noting for, there was actually the alternative route I can just simply take, but unfortunately though, I didn't seem to make it, so... Oh well. 101 rings, that's, something, I guess. So here we go, on to the final special stage in Sonic the Hedgehog 1. To be expected, I think to me, that both Special Stage 3, as well as Special Stage 6, are both considerably one of the hardest of the bunch. Which I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm guessing it's probably because both of those special stages have the kind of a similar layout, but it's just off the way of getting the emeralds, it feels a bit tricky to able to pull this off, so... But on the upside is though, is about the fact that every time I mess up with this special stage, well, I can just simply use one of my coins to able to actually just to try again. However though, there's also another way you can able to utilize with those special coins, and that is about the fact that you guys even know that there's actually a museum mode, you know, similar to the forms of how it does it in Sonic Gems Collection, or Sonic Gems Collection, I need to pronounce that correctly. That basically though, you can able to unlock certain concept arts, as well as music albums, and even especially noticeable with the films of some movies themselves too. So either way though, but again, we'll show that off and during at some point in the extras video of Sonic Origins, so... But that's all I can say about this particular compilation, honestly. In fact, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Did you guys manage to able to enjoy Sonic Origins on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, or the Switch version? Because generally speaking, although despite there are some complaints, I actually had a really good time with this compilation, similar to the forms of how it does it on Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Despite the fact that it's all about emulation, that's the only criticism I can think about it. But as a result of that kind of stuff though, I honestly don't care about the forms of those criticisms, because it's nice to able to go back to the past again, except now, you can play those good old classic games on the go, with some improvements, while there are some unchanges to be had, so... But either way though, I honestly don't care about it too much, I must be honest here, so... But I digress. So yeah, this part can go pretty slow at points. Well, I think this might actually be... I don't know about you, but either way though, it's been about... You know, 6 years since although technically speaking, it's been about a year ago since we've actually experienced this zone, all thanks to the forms of that terrible Sonic 1 Game Boy Advance port, which, yeah, I don't feel like talking about that ever again, because let me tell you, the GBA version sucks, so that's all I can say that right now. Alright, so I was gonna have to make sure I don't... Oh, jeez. I almost first thought I was gonna able to protect myself from those little spiky-like, robots right there, but apparently, though, I don't have my instant shield with me. Unless, there was actually a feature you can able to utilize thanks to the forms of the debug mode, which, again, I'll point things out whenever we get to that point, so... And for some reason, I'm having a hard time getting those item boxes from here. There we go. So from here, I'll get myself the invincibility and the speed shoes. So, how's up for that one? So, So it's gonna have to be able to make your way from here, just to make things a bit quicker. And of course, we can never forget ourselves another invincibility box, and just make sure you don't fall off down there, because obviously that's a bottomless pit. So, whoops. First step of the playthrough, but luckily though, the lives does not exist on story mode, so I could be able to die as many times as I wanted to. So, even though it might not be the most obvious scenario, even though it's kind of hard to explain, because I'm pretty sure I've already explained well enough for Sonic Origins as it is. So, oh, there's something new. Now they actually got ourselves these two barriers right there, because I'm pretty sure it's optimized as in widescreen. So, I'm pretty sure if you ever played this particular game of Sonic 1 on classic mode, I'm pretty sure those pillars don't exist. So, I guess that makes it pretty obvious, huh? So anyways, let's go and deal with you, and that pretty much does it for Spring Yard Zone. So 3 zones in 1 video, that's top notch. So anyways, I think we're gonna have to end things off at this point right here, I'm afraid guys. So join me tomorrow for more of Let's Play of Sonic Origins in Sonic the Hedgehog 1. Is that we'll go for the final 3 zones in Sonic the Hedgehog 1. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.